Alright, yours truly has promised that we're going to do a little bit of lore about QIQI today. So, we all know that QIQI is a zombie girl in Genshin Impact. In fact, she is the only zombie girl, I think. Or at least right now she is. Now, due to being a zombie, QIQI lacks a lot of, facial expression, a lot of emotion. She does hope that that is okay, but you never know. So, even though she looks like a zombie, she's surprisingly limber, and that's due to a strict calisthenics regimen that she enforces on herself. QIQI has poor memory, she forgets very easily, and because of that, she can seem quite cold to other people. Her appearance is forever frozen at the point of her passing. Estimates of her age are unreliable, however, I believe it's about 10 years old. That is the most accurate estimate for her age, because she is not very large. She's pretty undeveloped, biologically speaking, and so 10 years old would be a very good estimate for QIQI's canonical age. Though, it being an anime-like game, there's no way of knowing. I mean, look at Yugi Moto. He's, 16 in the anime? And he looks like he's, 8? But yeah, so whatever. Zombies require orders to act, but due to some reason or another, QIQI is presently giving herself orders. So, the way that QIQI works is, if you tell her to do something, she then has to tell herself to do that if she were to do said task. Otherwise, she cannot do it. Very interesting. Jumping right into the first character story. So, we all know zombies are cold, they're stiff, they're ugly, but QIQI isn't, because QIQI does hygiene like a good zombie, and Hu Tao doesn't like that. You see, she just tells QIQI whenever she meets her that it would just be easier if you just let me bury you, and QIQI doesn't really take too kindly to that. She doesn't have any wish to be buried, so QIQI exercises at night when nobody's around, and that actually keeps her body from going into rigor mortis. So, QIQI's memory, as we all know, is very bad, and it falls far behind those who are not undead. So, if she does not continually reinforce her impressions of someone, she will absolutely forget them. 3 days at max. Probably will forget them before then. This could be a good thing, because we don't know exactly the memories that QIQI has from when she was alive, or if she's even retained all of them. So for a person with painful memories, forgetting can be a form of release, and it can be very healthy in their own unique manner. So the person that QIQI must remember the most is Hu Tao. So not only does QIQI think that Hu Tao has a very punchable face, but Hu Tao shows up to see QIQI every single day. Imagine you're someone, and you're just at your job, right? And there's this one customer that shows up literally every single day, and the first thing they do is they go up to you, and they just look you dead in the eyes, and they say, it would be easier if you just let me bury you. That's what QIQI has to deal with every single day. Absolutely wild. So yeah, QIQI's not really concerned about her poor memory. So her second character story is as such. So she's small, but she is a powerful zombie. She has no impediment from having a 10-year-old's body. In fact, because she's a zombie, she now has high movement, high agility, high power. In combat, QIQI will unleash the self-control that she usually maintains, allowing her body to return to an undead state, which increases her strength and speed. The blood-curdling words that she says to her opponents, "You're dead." Once she has stoically defeated her enemies, QIQI will once again get her muscles under control, returning to her normal state. She has been threatened in the past by, general enemies like treasure hoarders, while she's out gathering herbs. And they think, oh man, it's just a little girl. Man, that's like taking babies from a candy. And then after they try to attack her, she yeets them off of a cliff and then goes on with her day. Or night. And that's why we should always remember never to judge a person on appearances, but really a zombie for that matter, because zombies are scary and you probably shouldn't get too close to them. Fortunately, there's no zombies right now. So, the third character story goes on to say this. So, zombies, or at least in Genshin Impact, zombies in Teyvat mostly require orders from the person who awakens them. Not only does this imply that there are other zombies in Teyvat, but it tells us about them. Strictly speaking, QIQI has never been awoken. So this presents an interesting quality about QIQI. So other zombies in Teyvat have to be awoken, some kind of necromancy is performed. And that's who they take orders from. QIQI doesn't have this, so QIQI has to give herself orders, and that's why that comes into play there. So as such, she counts as a rare case, and if orders are simple, like defeat enemy, QIQI can fulfill that, no problems. But if it's a more complex order, like go to Julian Karst and climb the rock faces to pick herbs, QIQI sometimes winds up stuck below the cliffs, unable to give up no matter how many times she tries to climb and scale the cliff, and then runs out of stamina and falls to the ground, crashing to what would be a normal human's death. But she's an undead bag of power, and yeah, when you're undead, your bag of power is your undead. So, you know, the method to cancel her orders, though, is very simple. Hug QIQI from behind and tell her something like, I love you the most, and the orders will dissipate, just like that. Unfortunately, there's just no element of sincerity when Visor does it, leading to greatly reduced results. So basically, just be kind to QIQI and she'll forget the orders that she's doing. That's pretty much what I come to understand that as. Perhaps someday someone will come along who understands that such words cannot be spoken lightly, and who slowly but carefully releases the hold that QIQI's orders have over her. Now, we wonder, what will QIQI's response be then? The world may never know. Moving on to the fourth character story. And this is a very important one, actually. So, this is a story that has long been forgotten by mortals. So, when QIQI was alive, she was an ordinary herb gatherer. And when she was gathering herbs one day, she got lost, and she trespassed into the realm of the Adepti. While she was trespassing, she injured her right leg in a fall. While injured, she found a cavern and she hid away in it to, you know, bandage her wound and try to recover a little bit. While she was doing this, though, she was hearing sounds that didn't belong to the mortal plane, as in, there was some supernatural being in that cavern with her. And 10-year-old QIQI did not expect that a huge crash would happen in this cave, and it does say specifically huge crash in the story, which could mean rockfall, it could mean cave-in, or it could mean a beast jumps on top of her and, you know, kills her, or goes to kill her. It's unclear exactly what this is. She didn't expect that she was going to die in this cavern. Now, it's very awkwardly worded here, but it says, quote, whether Adepti or demons, just or wicked, all understood that she was an innocent mortal caught in the crossfire, unquote. So, that's basically just saying whoever was seeing her in that cavern when the huge crash happens, again, the huge crash, it's not specific what it is, we don't exactly know, but whatever that is, it kills her. And whoever's watching, they basically understand that she is innocent. And by the will of heaven, she receives a vision in her dying moments. And this ends her connection between the Adepti and or the demon. Again, very oddly structured sentence. So the Adepti watching could not bear to let QIQI die. And each of them imparts her a portion of their strength, meaning to bring life back into her body. This basically resurrects her. QIQI indeed does awaken from this, and she lives again. However, the power that the Adepti give her is a little too much, and she goes into a berserk state because of it. And Mountain Shaper wanted to end this disturbance, because he realizes, oh god, we've made the zombie girl way too powerful. and he seals her inside of amber stone for hundreds of years. She's in that stone for hundreds of years. Absolutely insane. Now, this is an important thing that we see in the story. The Adepti do not give her the vision. All they do is they keep her alive, or rather, they resurrect her from death. So that is the very important factor there, because we still, or at least I don't, from where I am in the game, I don't 100% know where visions come from, but we do know that they do not come from Archons nor Adepti. They come from some higher being than them, which is really interesting. And she received her vision in her dying moments. With pretty much the last few breaths that she takes, she receives a vision as she is being brutally killed by either, again, a rock slide, cave-in, or some beast just pouncing on her and destroying her life. So there you go. The fifth character story goes as this. After hundreds of years being trapped inside the amber, QIQI is discovered again by humans, and they bring her to the Wangshen funeral parlor. So as they're transporting her, they're going, it's on mountain roads. So, it's really steep. There's a lot of bumps in the road, a lot of cracks. And the amber and the cart that they were transporting, it was kind of, bouncing around. It was hitting crates and stuff. You couple that with how many years it's been, hundreds of years. The stone is not as strong as it was, at first. So this seal on QIQI was weakened quite a bit, and in the middle of the night while they were transporting her, QIQI broke out of the amber and ran away. She fled, she ran away, she wanted nothing to do with what was happening and with that transportation. So she does remember, though, a little bit of her previous life, and she goes back to those herb-picking habits, and she heads right for the hills. Out of sheer luck, she meets Baizu, who, at this point in time, is the owner of the Boo Boo Pharmacy in Liyue. And on the way, he took her into his care. Now, Baizu is a doctor of great skill, but he's not a man of good courage. He's not a high-caliber guy either. So, even though he took her in, he doesn't really mind that her memory is so poor that she can't sort herbs out. So, it doesn't seem that his acceptance of QIQI has something to do... Sorry, it does seem that his acceptance of QIQI has to do with his own personal pursuits. AKA, she basically works for him, and he gives her a roof over his head, and she pretty much gathers all the herbs that he could ever need, and just takes advantage of that fact. So, it's not accurate to say that Baizu cares about her, but it's not inaccurate at the same time. It's one of those, it's like a business relationship kind of thing, I suppose. But it's not super expressed in the lore that I'm reading. So, Now, QIQI is stiff, but not slow, and she's realized this over a long period of time. She's realized this. So, she doesn't really take it to heart. So, she has no ill relationship with Baizu. So it might be because maybe she's seen too much, maybe it's because she's been alone for too long, sealed away inside of a stone, but what is true is that she actually does treasure his concern for her, even though there is some ulterior motive to it. So it's actually, just a thing. So QIQI is actually grateful to Baizu for giving her a roof over her head and possibly just giving her purpose, because imagine you're sealed away inside of a stone, right? You're the mammoth of the future. You're in a block of ice, you get thawed out. Cryogenics, Cryogenics are cool. So you're Fry, you wake up in the year 3000 and it's the future. Well, there you go. Whoever finds you first, you're going to develop a little bit of an attachment to, because you're probably scared. You don't exactly know where you are. You don't remember exactly what you were doing. Or maybe you do. Either way, it's one of those things to think about. Like, what would that really be like? We have no idea. So, This is another thing about QIQI. So we all know that she carries something with her that looks like a notebook. And that's because QIQI has very poor memory, as we all know. It's an irreplaceable object for her. If she is going to go about her daily life, she needs that notebook. Now, we actually know that the words written within that notebook QIQI has are written in a centuries-old style and are very elegant. The first page is an instructional on calisthenics, which would basically be her training routine at night to prevent her body from going into rigor mortis. Moving on after that page, you find descriptions of various herbs and orders. So QIQI, as we know, needs to give herself orders. So in order to do this correctly, she has to be very precise with the instructions in her notebook to ensure there's a smooth transition between doing certain things. She's also dutifully written down all the things she needs to do in a day, and recently in her notebook she added a section on brain training and mnemonic methods. At this point, it really is just a dummy's guide to everything. So for QIQI, she wrote the TAVAC guide for dummies. Pretty much. It's actually adorable. But if QIQI ever forgets that notebook, there's no helping her. There's no helping her. You just gotta point her in the right direction to go find her notebook. There's nothing that can be done. So this is another important one that ties in with the 5th character story and the 6th one. So QIQI's vision was given to her in the last moment of her life. And her desire, she's 10 years old. Keep this in mind. She is about 10 years old. She wanted to stop the clock. She wanted time to freeze, and she wanted to live happily again. She feared death. She wanted to live. She missed her family. All things a 10-year-old would probably think, or really anyone would probably think, in their final moments of some tragic thing happening like a cave-in, or rocks just crushing them to death. Like, what else are you going to think of in those final moments? You're scared. You don't want to die. You still want to live. You want to go back to your family. You want to see the people that you love. So the feelings that QIQI had in those last moments of her living life, they coalesced into ice. If only I could freeze time, how wonderful would that be? So as she thought this, she was crying, obviously, and tears fell from her eyes onto the vision that the gods had given her out of thin air. The mighty and illuminated Adepti acknowledged her receiving that vision as a legitimate form of illumination, as the yearning of humanity for bygone days is, after all, a desire to protect that past. So, because the gods gave QIQI a vision, the Adepti acknowledged this and, in turn, gave her life. So even though she died, they reanimated her, essentially, because she had received a vision. So it shows that the gods might be omnipotent, in a sense. So possibly they knew that the Adepti would have done this for her. It's unclear. There's a lot of things that are unclear with QIQI's lore, but we do know that canonically she has been around for hundreds of years, although most of that has been living inside of a stone, just because she had been given a little too much power at first, but there you go. Now, for the characters, there's a little bit about her. What Baizu has to say is, you have guessed correctly. The preservation of a thread of QIQI's consciousness was in fact the work of the Adepti. It's also thanks to QIQI that I managed to come up with a way to save someone on the brink of death. Since the Adepti took pity on this child, and even used their arts to keep her on this side of existence, I thought I'd take the opportunity to keep her around the pharmacy. There's no harm in that, is there? So, pretty much business mindset. He wants to make money, use her, in the best way that he can for his business. Chongyun has this to say. She looks like a zombie, but as an exorcist, I feel there's something different about her. Her name is also absent from all the praised names I've seen. where exactly does she fit in among the deities? So that's actually a very interesting thing, seeing Chongyun could possibly find out more about her. She might not have been an ordinary human when she was alive, but now as undead, her name might have been forgotten to time. It's very unclear. So, Hu Tao only has this to say as the antagonist, the big boogeyman of the story. Have you seen QIQI? Tell me where she is, quickly. I need to go seal her away. Tee-hee. Yeah, Hu Tao, you need to calm down with that. We all like QIQI. You don't need to do that. Traveler has a discussion with Paimon about QIQI, about her being a zombie, blah blah blah. Boring. Xingqiu has this to say. I've always thought that there is more to QIQI than meets the eye, but it's impossible to have a conversation with her when Baizu's around. Huh. I wonder, we could wait till Baizu makes a home call to one of his other patients and corner her, and learn more about her. Like, you know, Xingqiu is an intellectual. He wants to know things, so much respect to the guy. Yanfei has this to say. I heard that a little herb gatherer has written out a whole set of behavioral rules for herself. She may be small, but boy, has she got her head screwed on. She's definitely destined for greatness. The young of today shall outperform us tomorrow. As they say, I must admit, she has my respect. You know, great thing. So Yao Yao actually has quite a few things to say about QIQI. So the first one is, I once asked Dr. Baizu in private if there's any way to cure her, and, but it doesn't matter. I'll probably have to keep reminding her who I am for my whole life, but that's okay. QIQI is my best friend. She forgets who I am sometimes, but I know she doesn't mean it. I just have to remind her to check her notebook, and she remembers me right away. And then there are interesting things. So, Yao Yao says, I love finches. Whenever I go play with QIQI, I look out for them on my way there. And when I find them, I say, hi, do a little bird whistle. Yep, good morning. That's exactly what it means. Well done. So, yeah, so it actually says that just lets us know that QIQI does, in fact, have a friend. And she has to look in her notebook to remember who Yao Yao is sometimes, but that's completely fine, because that's just a thing. So, moving on to trivia about QIQI, and this is actually, there's quite a lot here, and it's very interesting. So, QIQI's type of zombification is depicted as that of a jiangshi, a hopping zombie in Chinese legend. So, hopping zombies are typically depicted as reanimated corpses wearing a round-topped hat with a talisman strip hanging from their foreheads that also suffer rigor mortis, which is the stiffening of limbs after death, which is why hopping is their only form of being able to move. QIQI performs calisthenics daily to prevent rigor mortis from setting in, which is really hard to grasp that, considering she was literally trapped in stone for hundreds of years, but that didn't seem to bring on the rigor mortis, so perhaps the rigor mortis did not set when she was, you know, cast inside of the stone, perhaps because she was in a very preserved state, but if not, that's kind of hard to believe. So, QIQI is mentioned in Baizu's message on the Feiyun Slope bulletin board. In her reply, Hu Tao then offers to bury her. Naturally, because Hu Tao is the big boogeyman of QIQI's world. According to the Chinese version, QIQI's swordsmanship is the ancient form of the Yunlai swordsmanship, a Liwei martial arts school whose masters include Keiqing. Now, the Steambird's Tevat Food Notes column, which are blog posts on the official Chinese site with real-life recipes for the in-game foods, QIQI is featured in a post for the Lotus Flower Crisp. So, you heard it here, chefs, cooks, anyone who wants to experiment. You can actually find this in the description below, the Genshin fandom, and you can see in the trivia of QIQI's lore page, there's little links here that you can click, and you can actually find yourself some recipes for the in-game dishes that you can make. Absolutely amazing. I might even go try that out myself. moving forward. Also in the post is a recipe for coconut milk-based cocktail. However, the columnist excludes alcohol from QIQI's class. So, also, QIQI shares the same Japanese voice actors with Teresa Apocalypse from Hokai Gakuen 2, and both Teresa Apocalypse and the ELF Blood Embrace from Honkai Impact 3rd. So, our next bits of lore are just about the voice actors. QIQI shares voice actors with, in different languages with quite a few other characters. In Chinese, she shares a voice actress with Noelle and Lumin Yanning. QIQI and the Unknown God share the same English voice actress, Christy Kate, and QIQI and Nahida share the same Japanese voice actress, Tamura Yukari. Now, this is a really important thing, or not important, but interesting thing about QIQI. She is also known by the alias Fortune, her server, which is quite interesting indeed. Now, the coin-shaped accessory in her hair is likely the Chinese burial money, which is a dark coin, or imitations of currency that are placed in the grave. See, in Chinese funeral tradition, it was one of the most common types of grave goods to be buried with. And you do this so that the deceased person could bribe the judge ruler of the underworld. And it's similar to Charon's obol in ancient Greece. QIQI's special food No Tomorrow also contains coin-shaped ingredients, which kind of harkens to that dark coin kind of thing. So it's really interesting. Another part of trivia, excluding Alloy and the Traveler, QIQI is one of the only 2 5-star characters who has never wielded a 5-star weapon in any of her character trial iterations to this date. The other 5-star character with this distinction is Albedo. We also have some NPC mentions of QIQI. In the Fleeting Colors in Flight event that we had, Tia saw QIQI and Baizu. Tia notes that QIQI, who had to visit patients in Qingse village, was prohibited by Baizu from climbing the roof to watch the fireworks. So yeah, basically, QIQI's not allowed to climb any roofs. That's the whole gist of that. The etymology of her name, QIQI, is literally 7 times 7. It's the name of a somewhat antiquated funeral ritual in East Asian Buddhism, which lasts for 49 days after a person's death when fully performed, in which a memorial ceremony is held on every 7th day, which is quite interesting. Her constellation, Pristina Nola, is Latin for the Ancient Bell. And there you have it. That is the basic lore of QIQI. I would like to dive into this character again at a later date, but there you have it. I hope you all did enjoy that. And let me know in the comments what you think, or if you have any extra lore that you might want to add to QIQI. Anything that you want to say, anything. You know, just leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe if you want to see videos similar to this one, and we're going to see all of you in the next video that we do. Take care, everybody.